This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hull and Back podcast, proudly sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar. And we finally have a merch store, which is made by It's a Funny Old Game. So we're going to have some mugs, hopefully some fun mugs on the next episode, and you can buy some floor mats and that sort of exciting thing. And if you want 10% off on the It's a Funny Old Game store, then you can use ampersand B10 for 10% off every product. And a very big thank you to everyone who has voted for us on the the annual Football Content Awards for 2022. We've made the final, so thank you all for voting. And if you do want to vote for us, then you can vote under the Best Podcast EFL and vote Hull and Back. So we've got another opposition preview with Ollie Kay. How are you doing, Ollie, today?
I'm doing very well. Congrats on making the finals of those podcast awards.
Thank you. So, how is it to be a Luton fan at the moment?
It's pretty good. This season, we haven't really hit the heights that everyone was expecting after last season. Last season really came as a bit of a shock. In the preview I wrote last season on Reddit, I sort of predicted a top 10. I thought there was going to be a huge gap with KDH leaving. But then we started the season and we started slow. But as the season progressed, we found ourselves in the playoff positions. And that sort of gave not a false hope for this season, but it certainly raised the expectations. Because if you look at it, we've got such a good manager. Sure, everyone thinks he's a massive whinger, and sure, sometimes he does like a little bit of a whinge. But we're all happy, and it's good that results have sort of changed a little bit, and he's seen what the best sort of team is for this season. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more, because our defence especially has been a bit shaky at best sometimes.
So just how much of a shock was it to finish that high in the table, considering the budget Luton are operating on? It was very Barnsley-esque the season before. That was the big surprise for that season.
Yeah, well, as long as we don't do a Barnsley this season, I'm happy. Well, I believe it's reported, like Kieran Maguire said, we have a bottom 3 budget, but it's all down to the recruitment that we've done for years. Like, sure, there are a few duds. Like, for every Elijah Adebayo, there's a Jake Jervis. A Jake Jervis. I think we signed him from Plymouth. He scored maybe 1 goal for us. He was like a deadline day freak out signing. He's like, oh my god, we need someone. Who are we going to sign? And we just signed Jake Jervis because he was over 6 foot and had some sort of pedigree for scoring goals, but he was actually really bad for us. So what was the original question? Apologies.
Oh, just something about how shocking it was that Luton finished so high, but you mentioned it earlier. Is that down to Nathan Jones more than the squad?
Nathan Jones, the characters we bring in, the cohesion. Last season, the tactics worked really well. It was a case of, we will give you the ball. You come at us, and then we will just play a long diagonal, and we will press you really high up the pitch and try and win it back and create stuff from that. So we've actually been trying to replicate that this year. We've kept the same formation. It hasn't reaped the same results yet. But if you actually look at our performance this season to last season, well, we played 10 games this season. We have the exact same amount of points as last season. So we are notoriously slow starters. In our League One winning season, we didn't really get going until the end of October. We lost to Barnsley, and then we didn't lose another game for 6 months. And then our first season back in the Championship,
that was poor.
We didn't get going until Graham Jones was shown the door. And Nathan Jones came back with 9 games left in that first season of COVID. And the second season of COVID, so last season, not last season, the season before that, again, it was sort of a slow start. It didn't really bed in until Norrington Davies left, and we finished 12th that season. So it was a flat season. But then last season, we didn't really get going until January. And then after January, we didn't drop too many points. So it's very much, we are slow starters, and this season we're performing as to the same level as we did last season. And I do think that it will pick up. Results have sort of improved. We do get kind of unlucky with some of the goals that we concede, in the sense that they're all bangers. I can only think of maybe 2 games where we've actually been cut open. Just tell me if I'm like jumping the gun here on what you're going to ask me.
Not really. I don't really bother asking about the previous matches, but if you want to talk about them, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll be very brief. We're with Coventry. Their player was Victor Gyökeres.
Victor.
He's so fast. He's so good as well. But we made the mistake of playing Sonny Bradley, who just looked injured after about 5 minutes. And they could have been 1-0 up in the first minutes. It's amazing we got anything out of that game, but fortunately we cut them open just as easily as they cut us open. That's probably one of the few games where I can actually think about us being cut open. That was due to Sonny Bradley, who I don't think he's fit. He's had a tough couple of years with his dad passing, and then he had long COVID, and he said it really affected him physically. But we do just look a better team. We have Lock here in the side. Although he scored an own goal against for Wigan, he scored an own goal. And Wigan, that's another game where when a team is happy to take long shots against us, like just shots from outside the box, because we just stand off them, we don't press them, we don't close down. We do get punished because some of these long shots, they do connect, and then it results in an absolute galazzo. Like the one against Coventry as well, Asgard, is godly finish. So his name really worked for him there. Like that was a brilliant goal. I know that was Wigan. And it was Hamer for Coventry with an absolute banger as well. Because we just sit off people, try and we just surrender possession and say, you come on to us, try and break us down, and then they can't break us down, so they just take shots from wherever. And you'd expect the goalkeeper to do slightly better with them, but when they're like postage stamps, you can't really do much about them.
Yeah. So you said you've been a bit unlucky. I mean, even though it's 10 games, it's still kind of difficult to judge how good a team is. Would you say you deserve to be higher in the table or lower at this point?
No one deserves to be higher or lower in the table. You are where you are, because games are decided on the pitch. Sure, the referees can impact that, and we've seen a fair share of that. For instance, in the Coventry game, McFadzean made a tremendous save for Coventry. In case you don't know, he's their centre back. He got both hands on the ball. It was tremendous. and we've seen it over the past couple of years. Just the quality of refereeing has just slowly gone downhill. But I see everyone complaining about it. So
It's all equally
I can't
bad
really
for
complain
everyone.
about it and say, yeah. It's a very socialist thing. Everyone's getting screwed at the same rate, so it's not.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I've mentioned how the budget for Luton Town isn't as big as other clubs, but you still have made about 8 or 9 signings. I think it's 9. Who are the standouts that you've brought in so far? Because I'm looking at the top in here: Woodrow and Colton Morris, the strikers from Barnsley. Or the Woodrow, has he been there a year or two? I mean, Luton and Barnsley.
No, we signed Woodrow.
I get confused.
I'm also a bit confused about Woodrow, to be honest. So Woodrow, he's one of our own. He's from our academy. Then Fulham picked him up off us when we were in the conference. He had a couple of seasons in the Prem. Then he went on loan to Barnsley and did well for Barnsley, captained them, and we signed him again. All our fees are undisclosed, so we don't know how much we've actually paid for people, but it was reported that we signed Colton Morris for about 2 million, which is just unheard of for Luton. And Nathan Jones then came out and confirmed that we did indeed break our transfer record for him. And that transfer record was set when we signed Simon Sluga from Rijeka. If you remember that goalkeeper, he's got quite a cult following at Luton, but we quietly shipped him out the door to Ludogorets last season.
I remember him being bad. That's what I remember.
Yes, he's got a cult following though. A lot of people misremember him as being a tremendous keeper. Sure, he was a good shot stopper, but we made a mistake in breaking our transfer record for him. I think that was 1.3 million. It was nice to break the transfer record either way because it'd been 30 years. Like before, I think I was like 1 year old when we broke our transfer record last time. That was for Lars Elstrup in '88. He was a very good striker. A bit of a nutcase if you check out his recent escapades, though. So yeah, getting back to Colton Morris, I'd say he's been the standout of the signings that we've made. Like 6 goals in 6 games, well worth the 2 million, even if that 2 million has been amortized across his contract length. So we're not paying 2 million up front because that's not really how we do business. He's definitely the better of the 2 that we got from Barnsley. He's what we thought Adebayo would be this year. But I was telling you off air before, like I think Adebayo's carrying an injury anyway. If anyone watched the playoff semi-final against Huddersfield last year, he came on in the 95th minute because we were trailing and we needed a goal. Then he just sort of hobbled on, and everyone in the crowd was just, oh god, it's not meant to be, because we were just hit with so many injuries last season. But he had a good pre-season, but I think he may have overexerted himself because he presses like a madman. But fortunately, in Luton hitting the heights we thought he'd hit this season, Colton Morris has been phenomenal. He really has. In terms of other signings, I don't know if you're going to read them out. Off the top of my head, we got that guy from Sheffield United, Luke Freeman, who you could tell at the beginning he's played about 20 games in 4 years. He wasn't really sharp, so he was getting hooked at 60 minutes. He's very tidy with the ball, but when we play Freeman, Campbell, and Jordan Clark in a midfield 3 in our 5-3-2 system, they're all quite little. You generally think of professional footballers as being, 6 foot plus and, being real physical specimens.
Mm-hmm.
They are all very talented footballers. They're very mobile, and I love seeing them all buzz around, especially Alan Campbell, who's probably the best signing we've made in must be the last 10 years that I can think of. He's phenomenal, Alan Campbell, and how he's not in the Scottish setup is criminal. He'd fit in so well in the Scotland team. But the problem with Clark, Freeman, and Campbell is they're all quite attacking players. I thought Alan Campbell was going to be a defensive midfielder, but he's not. He's a box-to-box machine. You'll see this firsthand on Friday is the game. He's industrious. He puts a foot in. He doesn't shirk a challenge. He can also go on absolutely mazy runs, which is it was very surprising. Like the first time, he's only really started doing the mazy dribbles this season. He's phenomenal. He's got like a tiny little center of gravity. He weaves in like Maradona. It's wonderful. But we look far more balanced when Freeman is perhaps sacrificed and we bring in Lansbury instead to sort of sit instead of having Jordan Clark as the defensive midfielder, because we signed Jordan Clark as a right winger. We didn't sign him as a defensive midfielder, but a lot of positions have had to be sacrificed because our intention was to play a 4-3-3, but we moved to a 5-3-2 because it seemed to have worked. We did it to accommodate Cal Naismith last season because Naismith was Naismith's played everywhere, including goalkeeper. We played him at left centre back, and he seems to have carved up a little niche as a wide, marauding left centre back who brings the ball out and then pings a beautiful cross-field ball, a lovely diagonal, which I believe he's doing at Bristol City. Although his position has been taken by Dan Potts this year, and I'm mixed on Dan Potts, although he's been at the club for 10 years. I can't really think of any other standouts. Signings. Carlton Morris is definitely the standout, though.
So it looks like you brought in 2 goalkeepers. Was that a position that you desperately needed to sort out?
Yeah, well,
last season, extreme.
Last season, if you've seen the stats for it, I think we used 4 goalkeepers.
And Matt Ingram.
Yeah, we used Matt Ingram for the playoff semi and for our final game against Reading. I quite liked Ingram. It was tough to see when I was up at Huddersfield, but I seem to remember he made an incredible double save against Huddersfield. Although I think they should have had a penalty immediately after that, but I'm glad they didn't. Although it's all in the past. But yeah, Ingram was phenomenal. I was very surprised that he signed a new contract, considering that you signed Nathan Baxter.
We were a bit surprised as well, but then he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the league. Unfortunately, the defence in front of him has been so incompetent that he's now been dropped. Although he had made some mistakes, but he'd done very well. So a good player to sign for a playoff campaign. So, but what about the 2 new ones? What do you think of them so far, if they've both played?
So Matt Macy's played one game, one competitive game. Excuse me. He played one competitive game against Newport County, and he dropped so many clangers in that game. We lost 3-2. They came from behind twice to end up winning 3-2. So I'm not really sure on that Macy. We had him before. We had him in our League Two promotions. No, we had him in our. We had him when we failed in the playoffs in League Two. So that must have been about 6-7 years ago. Recalled by Arsenal to sit on their bench, and everyone's been saying, give him a chance, that was 7 years ago. But I'm very happy that we signed Horvath, because he's very good. Sure, he gets beaten by long-range worldies, but who wouldn't? Like when it's like tapped right into the postage stamp, there's not really much you can do about it. But he's dependable. I don't freak out, fear for my life, like when the ball gets played back to him, like Simon Sluga. I'm also not a fan of James Shea, which may be a controversial opinion, but I find his positioning to be a bit dodgy, and he's a bit small for a goalkeeper. Although one of our best goalkeepers we've had, Mark Tyler, was very short. But I'm sort of a traditionalist when I feel that the goalkeeper should be massive. Like Matt Ingram being one of them. He's 6'4", 6'5". So you know that they're not going to struggle to dig them out the top bins. Yeah. But overall, I'm happy with Horvath. I will be a bit shaky when knowing our keeper record, he'll pick up an injury and then we'll end up with Matt Macy.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you've mentioned Adebayo. Scored a lot of goals last season. You know, and with the amount of times that you see a young striker go to the Championship, score a load of goals, and they immediately go to the Premier League, that's not happened about. Well, I mean, there were 3 cases where I thought maybe they'd sign for a Premier League club, or 4 actually. Brereton, Gyökeres for Coventry, Joel Perot. Well, there are lots actually. Jakobsen and Adebayo. Seems maybe this season they're not taking as bigger risks on these young Championship strikers. But you've said that he had a great season last year, being a bit injured. So who are the danger men, if not Adebayo, for Hull City fans to watch out for on Friday?
Certainly Carlton Morris. Ball sticks to him. Great hold-up play. And he's not scared to take a shot. He's good at winning the ball in the air as well. So he might not be the tallest. He's not as tall as Adebayo, but he uses his body well to hold off other defenders. James Bree, I think you guys will remember James Bree scored a absolutely brilliant free kick against Matt Ingram last season. We beat you 3-0. It was the 3rd goal. But give it a rewatch because it's
I remember now.
Phenomenal free kick. He's made the right wing back position his own. I would say he's better than Jack Stacey. So Jack Stacey's the right back we had that played in the Diamond system in our League 2 promotion, League 1 back-to-back campaigns. I'd say James Bree probably has a high ceiling. I'm a massive Jack Stacey fan, but I think Bree just has a higher ceiling, and also his dead ball delivery is phenomenal. He's really improved on it, and just, even though he just not work, but his when the ball's moving, he can whip it across really well. But I'd say those are the 2 standout danger men. Alan Campbell will be a nuisance. And I'd like to have Bree here. Yeah, he is a great player. Alan Campbell, he'll be buzzing around. It'll be you'll notice Alan Campbell of all the players who are playing on Friday. You'll notice Alan Campbell because he'll just appear everywhere on the pitch, picking up the ball, intercepting, dribbling past your players. You'll notice him. Of all the players that get picked up next season or in January, it's going to be Alan Campbell, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really looking forward to Friday then, because that seems like half the team we have to watch out for.
You'll be fine. Well, you signed like a whole new team. Oh, I think my internet dropped.
We have signed a new team, but a lot of them aren't really performing to the way we know they can do. So, I mean, when we get to the prediction, I'll just have to play it safe with a 3-0 loss. So spoilers for the prediction. One little thing from my boss, Ant, says, how has Reece Burke been for Luton? Because we've already talked about Sonny Bradley, another former Hull centre-half, but what about Reece Burke?
He scored a great goal. Who was our last game against? I can't even remember. It's so long ago. I hate international breaks. Against Blackburn. He's sort of picked up where Cal Naismith has left off, because we need ball progressors in the back line. Before it was Cal Naismith picking the ball and bringing it forward. whereas this season it's been Reece Burke. And I would say Reece Burke is, other than Tom Lockyer, Reece Burke is probably our best defender. He progresses the ball well. He can run with the ball. As shown against Blackburn, he can strike a ball very nicely. He scored a great goal against Chelsea last year in the FA Cup. That must have been one of the longest games I've been to, because when you score in the 3rd minute against the reigning European champions, the remaining 87 minutes just drags on for what feels like an eternity. It was a well-taken header. He's been very solid. Unfortunately, he can be a bit fragile. I'd love for him to play every game, because we look a better team when our back three is has Burke on the right centre-back position.
Yeah, okay, so solid but fragile as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. How does that work?
Well, he puts in solid performances, but he gets lots of muscular injuries.
Okay.
He's prone to pulling up with a hammy while he's like chasing someone.
It sounds like our whole team.
Sorry?
It sounds like our whole team at the moment getting hamstring injuries.
Yeah, well, they put in big shifts. They're pressing for like 90 minutes, so it's very normal. And also at the beginning of the season, these things happen because they're not really conditioned for full match fitness.
Yeah,
I feel that's probably one of the things that contributes to us being slow starters as well, because our game plan is to surrender possession and press. So I think that's something that comes with a lot of games under your belt when you're really comfortable to do that all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope you've prepared this, because I told you yesterday, but what's your predicted Luton Town lineup for Friday night?
So we seem quite settled. The only place I'm sort of... I can give 2 lineups. I can tell you what I want it to be, and I can tell you what it probably will be.
Maybe do a mix of both or something.
Okay.
What it will be.
What it will be then. So it'll be Horvath in goal. And then left centre-back will be Potts, because he's been performing well. In the middle, Tom Lockyer has done enough to just stay in the centre of the 3. I don't think Bradley's fit. He certainly didn't look fit against Coventry. Right centre-back, Burke. Then you'll have Amari Bell, left wing-back, James Bree, right wing-back. And then a midfield 3 of the sort of the double pivot would be Jordan Clark, although I'm hoping it's Henry Lansbury. So it'll be Jordan Clark and Alan Campbell with Luke Freeman above them. So Luke Freeman sort of playing in the hole, and then up top it's definitely going to be Colton Morris, unless he got injured in the international break, because he's nailed on start now, and depending on injuries, I would say Bio, because we need to get that centre-back partnership up and running. But it might not be Adebayo, it might be Harry Cornick. So that would be Horvath, Potts, Lockyer, Burke, Bree, Bell, Campbell, Clark, Freeman, Adebayo, and Morris.
Okay, cool. What's your prediction then? Because I think we're going to probably get battered again. I hope we don't, but that's the probability at the moment.
I don't see a battering. I see it being a squeaky 1-0, to be honest. 1-0 to Luton. Hull like to dominate possession, right?
Probably. We had about 60% possession the last home game and had fewer shots, so that wasn't good.
Oh yeah, but you haven't scored in like 3 games, have you? 4 games.
No, we haven't.
Oh, that'll be ideal for us then. We perform much better when the other team have the ball, and we can all just sit back and just keep opposition, press. But we press quite high. It's not we're all on the edge of our box. We're sort of closer to the halfway line. Sometimes in your half, if you're like knocking it back between your centre backs will be pressing between the lines and moving between. We tend to press between midfield and the defence. So if that's the case, yeah, I'll stick with my squeaky 1-0 away win.
Okay. Right. Well, usually at this point, I ask you to say where you can find your podcast stuff, but you don't have one. But can Luton or Hull fans find you elsewhere? Maybe your Reddit things?
Yeah. So I set up a Luton Town Reddit back when Luton were in League Two. If you are inclined for Reddit, you can find us at COYH, which stands for Come On You Hatters. Just go to Reddit and type in COYH. We also have a Discord, which is really busy on match days. A Discord server, you can find that by, well, I actually don't know that one. I think you can just type in lutonfc.co.uk and it will direct you to the Discord. But it's pretty good if Hull fans want to see what Luton fans are talking about on the match feed.
Mm-hmm.
Some lovely biased conversation.
Yes, I'm sure it certainly would be. Yeah. So, well, thank you very much for coming on, Ollie. You've been wonderful. I hope you've had a lovely time. Mm-hmm. And if you're still around in a few months' time, maybe we can get you on the return fixture as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for listening to another opposition preview for To Hull and Back, and we'll be back with another main episode probably tomorrow, and we'll be reviewing the upcoming Luton defeat next week. All right, thank you very much for listening.